I am Pete Molinari, and welcome to the Blues Kitchen. So they wanted you to change your point of view.
Pete Molinari is a singer-songwriter currently based out of Los Angeles. We first met Pete when he played a 4-night residency at the Blues Kitchen Camden back in 2014. We caught up with Pete to discuss life in LA, recording at Capitol Studios, and his new album, Just Like Achillies, out now on Wah Music. Pete also played a cover of Take These Chains From My Heart, originally recorded by Hank Williams. And while you're watching, like this video and subscribe to the channel for regular episodes of the Blues Kitchen Presents.
Pete Molinari,
Liam,
welcome back to Blues. How you doing?
Good. Last time I saw you, you were kind of like short back and side.
That's how long it's been, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
I was thinking about that on the way over. So last time we caught up, you just brought out Theosophy.
Yeah.
And I think you came on the Blues Kitchen podcast. And I have this memory of talking about making your first or second record with Billy Childish in his or your kitchen.
His kitchen, yeah.
So much to my delight, a few months ago, I see on YouTube pop up one of your latest videos, and you're at Capitol Studios doing Waiting on a Train with Jacob Dylan and Don Was on production duties. And I was like, from Billy Childish kitchen, which is cool in its own way,
to Capitol Studios.
To Capitol in LA. You've moved out there as well. I mean, firstly, maybe tell us what you've been up to, and then we can get into the record as well.
I kind of didn't plan to go from Billy's kitchen to, I mean, Billy's kitchen, we call it Billy's kitchen, but I guess it was his studio at the time that he just had set up. And because of playing dates with him, I ended up kind of like on Damaged Goods, that record label. And it just felt right to do that record with Billy, and then I'd kind of progressed to Toe Rag. It's funny to say you progressed to Toe Rag because it's kind of like an old analog studio. I guess people wouldn't see it that way.
And very much on the map these days, kind of like a legendary studio in London
great,
now.
Yeah, it's a great studio. And kind of recorded here pretty much the first two records. Then I went to Nashville and did a record because I liked the musicians over there. They were really good. And then I did the last record with some guys from the Isle of Wight. Do you know those guys? Jim and Rob Holm. And
the fellas from the Bees.
Yeah, Tom's on the Bees. And Rupert I'd known earlier from recording at Toe Rag. He's a drummer, great drummer. And Trucks and those guys down there. And then, I got into the last one, I guess, was interesting because I was learning, get different mixes done and all that stuff. It's the first time I'd kind of, tried all of that stuff.
Are we talking about Theosophy, the last record?
Yeah, it was kind of like the management I was working with at that time. They worked with a guy called Chad Blake, who's a well-known recording engineer, and worked with, so easy to name who he hasn't worked with, I think, and who he has, you name it. But I'd heard about Chad through the Black Keys because I'd done dates with them, and I know that he was working with them. And also I was friends with Andrew Everall for a few years, and he'd done a couple of things.
Yeah, I remember now.
So I'm hoping to catch up with Andrew while I'm in London. But yeah, it was an interesting time. And then since then I went to America just to tour, really. I didn't plan to move there. And
you were saying before the cameras were on that you went to New York first.
Yeah,
kind of dip your toe in the water there for a bit, and now LA is home.
Yeah, because New York was somewhere, even when I was kind of art school years ago, I'd kind of used to go all the time, and play shows, like little cafes and whatever, in the park pretty much all day. So New York felt, when these people I was working with in America on the last record wanted me in the States for a year or something, that first time I was like, they were all in LA, but I said I'd stay in New York, and then tour around and do what I had to do. So I toured with different groups over there a little and stayed in New York, and then I kind of just was going to LA to record. I started some recording with a chap called Mitchell Froome, who used to work with Chad years ago, and an older guy at Warner Brothers, Lenny Warnaker. You might have heard of his son Joey, who plays drums for Beck and Roger Waters and people. He's a well-known drummer over there. But Lenny goes way back with Warner's, so I started some recordings with them, and then connected with a chap called Bruce Whitkin over there in LA that I had kind of been in contact a little bit from London, because I had just had this song feature in this Johnny Depp movie, which wasn't a good movie. I don't think. I've never seen it, so I can't really comment. But it was a film called The Lone Ranger, which I think he had produced with Gore Verbinski, I think, who had done the Pirates of the Caribbean and all that stuff. And they just used the song. So through that, I'd met this producer called Bruce Witkin. And then when I was looking for someone to work with in LA, I was kind of like, do I go back to London? Do I go to Nashville, where I knew people? And I'd run into Bruce, and we started chatting, and I found out his whole history, which he kind of like has been long-time friends with Johnny Depp. I think they came to LA together from Miami when they were like 18, before Johnny Depp had ever been even in a film. At that point, that he was pursuing being a rock star, which I believe now
he's full circle.
Yeah, now he's kind of in a band. Yeah. But at that point, they'd come to LA, and he obviously became a really big actor. And Bruce, is a musician and set up a studio there with a tiny record label. And we just started making tracks. He was kind of like, come in the studio when you want, and we'll just try stuff. So I recorded this record pretty much. And then from there I met Linda Perry, who you might know from a group called Four Non Blondes, I guess was her initial thing. And then she went on to, I think write a bunch of songs for all of these different pop stars over there and have a lot of success there. And she just as I met her, she was starting this new label called We Are Here, which has been going a couple of years now. And I'd kind of had 95% of this new record recorded. I just needed to do a couple of more tracks, which I actually ended up doing with her. And then, I never really made a record like that. It was always either, go work with Billy or work with Liam or work with, it was kind of like going in the studio for 2 weeks or something.
Complete kind of chunk of time with one person.
And on this occasion, and I never had a space between this record and the last one like I did. I guess it was just through trying to find producers and trying to, where I was. Yeah, right vibe. So I've finished this stuff, and it's kind of there. The Capitol thing was a thing.
This is for Waiting on a Train.
Yeah, with the Capitol thing, that little segment that you've seen came from a larger film, really. It was Linda Perry's idea. When she first met me, she was kind of looking at me strange for about an hour, because she's, I was looking at her strange too, I guess, with her look. But I think she was kind of trying to figure out what, she'd heard some tracks, and she was trying to figure out who I'm mostly inspired by or where I'm inspired by. And also with what I was wearing, I guess, which is a mixture of things a lot of the time. So she was like, I want to do a little doc about you or something like that. I want to do a little film. She has a lovely studio herself over there in Sherman Oaks. But then her little idea of doing a little film, a week later was like, let's, do it somewhere else. Somewhere iconic. She named a few places, and then I'd previously met Don Was on a couple of occasions. He's a lovely guy, and everyone says that about him, that he's great to work with.
I get that impression, yeah.
Yeah, really, really cool guy. And he runs the label Blue Note, I think, so he works with a lot of jazzers. And I think he works with the Rolling Stones and a bunch of people. But when Linda was kind of like choosing somewhere, I thought, well, the only other studio that could probably be on the same level as Abbey Road or somewhere as well known as that to film in would be Capitol, and to work with Don, which I thought would be a great opportunity. And if you look back at Capitol, I guess just like Abbey Road, you'll see that there is, you name it, Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra and all of these people. There's pictures all over the place. If you're in LA, you should just go and see it. And you can actually sit on the store as well that Frank Sinatra recorded on, and use the mic, which I don't think I got to use, but
so much romance in that stuff, isn't there?
Yeah,
I'm a sucker for that.
It's a beautiful studio. I think, like if you're in London, I think everyone wants to spend a day at Abbey Road, don't they? And I guess in LA it's that place. So, and there's a number of studios, but we did this TV thing, and Linda kind of said to me, see who you can get involved. I guess my buddies or whoever. So I'd reached out to a few people, but it's always timing with these things. A date's chosen, and I thought of the Black Keys and a few other people that I'd worked with before, and then I'd just written down on a piece of paper who might still be out there, and I'd kind of I just thought of, so many people have gone, aren't they? So I think I'd written like Tina Turner, I think, and a few other people because I like those old Ike and Tina records and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd written down Ronnie Spector because I love the Ronettes from the past, and not even with the slightest. I never dreamed that she would say yes, but she did, And she came in the studio with her big bouffant hairstyle, like she still
incredible.
is.
Still just as glamorous.
Years later, just as glamorous, and with that same kind of New York broad accent. And she was one of the people, and then Evan Rachel Wood, who was one of Linda's friends, and obviously Jacob Dylan, which Linda had worked with before and known for a long time. So she just kind of put a band together for that session, which was Mike Garson, who had played with David Bowie before, I think since the beginning of David Bowie's career. I think he was his keys player.
Yeah.
Joey Warnaker actually on drums, and Galan Dorsey, who also played with Bowie for a number of years, and a bunch of other great musicians, Damon Fox and stuff.
What a lineup!
Yeah, so it's a kind of larger film. It's kind of like a companion piece for this record. They want to put out as a whole film, but then when it came around to doing this song, they just cut that little piece for now, and used that section I'd done with Jacob Dylan, which was kind of.
I mean, it's an incredible performance. Musicians are there,
yeah.
But I mean, let's not forget about the song as well. Like,
yeah.
You've always had this knack, just watching you, and our viewers are going to be able to see the performances you've done today. Your guitar playing is great, but sometimes it's like, how are you managing to find these beautiful melodies just over G, C, and D like everyone else? The way you hang your melodies around your progression is just out of this world, and that one particularly. So I'm kind of curious to know what it's like when you hand a few of your verses to someone like Jacob Dylan. Yeah, hand it over.
Yeah, it was weird with him because he had I'd met him once before when I was in Nashville. That I'd seen I played with a drummer that was part of that band, the Wallflowers, So
which was his band, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, I believe it's still his band, or he gets them together every now and again. But I'd met him once before. And then that was only the second time I'd met him, and Linda was like, right, you two go in the studio, and he obviously looks a lot like his dad, so it's kind of like surreal. As well. Yeah, he sounds a bit like between his dad, I guess, and Bruce Springsteen. He's got a bit of a gravelly voice like his, and he's just a really sweet guy though too. He's really he was making a documentary at the time called. It was about a year and a half ago that we recorded it. So he was making this doc that just came out, Echo in the Canyon. Have you seen that?
This is about the Laurel Canyon thing.
Yeah,
I've heard about it.
The birds and the Beach Boys and all that kind of stuff. So he was telling me about that at the time. He was like, "Well, you got me in the studio, and I've just been in the studio with Brian Wilson and Tom Petty and all these guys." But it was a really fun thing to do, and. Yeah, I mean, being in Capitol Studio can be nerve-wracking for anyone, really, on the first day you've ever been in there. But
don't you think you just rise to the occasion with things like that?
You do, yeah.
I think
you have
another maybe kind of more accessible version of that is if someone wants to go and headline Glastonbury. Yeah. There's no coincidence that people play the best show of their lives because they rise to the occasion. I think those studios do the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same as kind of that in a way. It's like, there's only a few times. There was one time I never recorded in Abbey Road, but I'd been in there, and you feel like it's a bit of a church, isn't it? It's kind of like it's a religious place in some ways, but it's kind of, and in Capitol, all of these Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra made these records there. It's like if you're at a Carnegie Hall or something, or the Albert Hall, you just kind of think about who's been there before, and it's a bit scary, but you have to kind of rise to it. As far as the songs, I don't know. I try and just write the most uncomplicated melodies and just kind of whatever feels right and whatever I want to talk about. And I still listen to all of those great people. Lately, in the past couple of years, I started to listen to other music because I thought I had to. Start listening to jazz and stuff like that. Being in America, and you're kind of around. Yeah,
bit of an education.
Yeah, but I still always listen to, those things I first heard as a kid, I guess. The simplest, greatest songwriting, like the Beatles. Obviously, they did so much, but I love who they learned from, which was, Buddy Holly and Chuck Berry. And, if you play a Buddy Holly song, you're still amazed at how great it is on a few chords. It's
absolutely,
like pop perfection in some ways.
So the new album, Just Like Achillies.
Yeah.
Is out early next year in January?
In January, yeah.
So when are we going to be able to get a hold of it?
In January, I would guess. It's you know, all of this kind of release stuff's changed so much, isn't it? Because first they put everything out digitally, and then, you know, I guess it's pretty much a vinyl and down. I don't think even people are making CDs anymore, are they? I don't know.
I actually don't know anyone that has a CD player anymore.
I never really cared about CDs anyway. It was always getting the record for me.
Well, you also were very kind enough to come in and do a cover today.
Yeah.
And you came in and did Hank Williams' tune, Take These Chains From Me. So we were talking about the simplicity of a few chords and incredible melodies.
Yeah.
I mean, there you go. There's one of the masters.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm curious to know why that was a tune that you picked for the performance.
Mainly I chose it because I've been doing this residency with my girlfriend Mila. So we've been doing a couple of things together, which I've always loved collaborating, as you know, whether it's with Barry or with Dan or any of these friends, you know, play the guitar or play the harmonica or something. You know, I think I might have probably heard the Ray Charles version first, like you do when you're a kid. It's like you always hear these versions that are more popular. And like anyone, you know, you start reading the notes and you start finding out who Hank Williams was. And, you know, I mean, Hank Williams was maybe the start of a huge movement in a way. I guess everyone looks back to him.
I mean, when I think of the Grand Ole Opry, I think of Hank Williams before I think of anyone else.
Yeah, and apparently he's kind of like he's the probably the most well-known country singer of all time, or at least the most kind of iconic and mythological in a way that everyone talked about, right from Johnny Cash to Roy Orbison to everyone. And I think I heard that he's not even he was the only guy that's not inducted into their Hall of Fame thing, which who cares much anyway. But I think because he was such a badly behaved chap, obviously, because he kind of, you know, got out of it a bunch of times and stuff. But he's kind of, it's funny to hear that, because when you go in there, the first person you probably think of is Hank Williams, you know, when you go into the Ryman or you go into any of those places. But I guess Hank Williams, you know, he was such a character and such a great singer and such a great songwriter that everyone talks about him and that voice. And you can see how, I guess, he was a kind of big stepping stone to rock and roll, because if you hear Rock Around the Clock and all that stuff, and you hear Move It On Over and the way his band swung in a way, he could write these fun lyrics, but also write something like I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry or Take These Chains, you know, which is incredible, pretty much.
I think on that note, it's probably time for you to introduce your performance, if that is all right.
Yeah, I'm Pete Molinari, and this is called Take These Chains From My Heart by Hank Williams. Take these chains from my heart and set me free. You've grown cold and no longer care for me. All my faith in you has gone, but the heartaches linger on. Take these chains from my heart and set me free.
Take these tears from my eyes, 'cause I can see just a spark from the love that used to be. If you love somebody new, let me find a new love too. Take these chains from my heart and set me free.
Give my heart just a word of sympathy. Be as fair to my heart as you can be. Then if you no longer care for the love that's beating there, take these chains from my heart and set me free.
Take these chains from my heart and set me free.
Subscribe to the Blues Kitchen for live performances and interviews with the hottest blues, soul, country and roots musicians in the world today.
To change your point of view, for you to be a part